Yeah, Sakina, thanks very much. Gugulethu, which basically in isiXhosa means our pride. Can you honestly feel that what you've heard this morning is something to be proud of? Well, unfortunately, this is not a proud moment for South Africa and for the Western Cape in general, because when you listen to the stories of the people, the realities, the lived realities, as you call them, Sakina, this is a devastating situation. Imagine having 2 of your children killed in 1 year with absolutely no answers, and in fact, nobody even caring. Well, I have to tell you that Mama, who we were speaking to a bit earlier, has been taken off for counselling right now because she is so badly affected, and the fact that she's had a voice has given her so much emotion, and she needs to talk right now. So we've taken her off and she is getting counselling, which I'm very, very happy to hear. I want to quickly get into our next set of guests that are here. Let's talk about what we can do and what needs to be done to rectify the situation. You know, there's going to be a shutdown here in Gugulethu to address some of the issues that we've spoken about here on the program. It's happening between 10 and 2 this morning and into the afternoon, and everybody is joining in. Civil society, community members, you name it, coming together as a peaceful march to try and get something done. Let's talk to my next guests now. We've got Yvonne Daki, who is a ANC provincial chaplain and Reverend. Thank you very, very much, Reverend, for being with us. Mlungisi, he's a Gugulethu Business Forum. Thank you. Welcome to Morning Live. Nomian Kondla, MPL Provincial Legislature, and here in the Western Cape. And of course, Isaac Mangwane, who's Movement for Change and Social Justice. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. So obviously there's a lot that's been said here on the program. I'm going to come to the religious aspect, because everywhere I look, I see a lot of religious leaders. You yourself are a reverend. Religion in all of this, how does it help? How does it assist? What I gathered from my guest was that Mama had nowhere to turn but to the church. And, you know, when she speaks almost in parables and speaks very much so in a religious way, because there is nowhere else to turn but to God and to the church. And that's what I figured from her. She's losing faith in people, but her religious aspect is getting stronger. So maybe help us understand that.
Thank you, Leanne. I think the church stands to be a prophetic voice in the community. And also the church stands for healing, and it stands for hope. If you look back, even during the apartheid days, the church, when everybody couldn't speak, the church spoke. The church came out for justice. It stood for justice, and that role still stands for the church. The church is supposed to comfort, heal, and stand for justice for those people who are denied justice.
Justice in the church is one thing. Justice in reality, actually seeing somebody held accountable for the wrongs that they've done in this world, and to individuals, is something that seems to be lacking. So how do we integrate the two?
The church lives in the community, and the people who are in church on Sundays, they live in the community. So the church has to hold hands of people in the community. The church again should not be preaching only on Sundays in pulpits. It should also be part of the transformation of the society and hold hands with the society, and not see itself as different from the society. Because if we understand well, the church is people that gather together for fellowship, to bring change for themselves and also for their communities. So the church is still called to be a prophetic voice, as I said earlier on, and also be for transformation, any transformation that is developmental in the community.
All right, Reverend, thank you. We'll get another word from you now. I just want to move on to Mlungisi, if you can pass the mic on there. And I know that you here in your capacity as the Gugulethu Business Forum, but I want to pause that, because just before we came on air, you dropped a bomb on me by telling me that your son was murdered in your house and nothing has happened.
Yeah.
What happened?
Thank you, Leanne, and good morning to the viewers at home. Apparently, what happened, I think four gangsters came into my mother's house, and they wanted money and cell phones. And then they held my sister, who was at home, held hostage, took her to the bedroom, and the other nieces and the niece who were, and nephews who were there, they then went into my mother's bedroom, and they ransacked everything looking for money. And just from there, my son came from the back room, and then he was then ushered into where my sisters were, and they asked for money and cell phone. Then he said no, he doesn't have, and there is no money in the house.
Yeah.
So one of them said, "Oh, you think you are playing here?" And then he took a gun from the one who was part off, and then he shot him, cold blood. And as if that was not enough, while he was laying dead, they robbed him of his shoes. And up till today, nothing has happened.
The investigation into it, do you know the perpetrators? Do the community know the perpetrators?
Yeah, they are known.
And the police have done nothing about that, even though they are known and they are still roaming the streets.
Yeah, they're still at large, yes. Nothing has happened.
So, but why? Do you know why? Can somebody give me a reason as to why these perpetrators are known, your son is dead, and they are living a free life, and you are not living a free life?
Yeah. To be honest, I think I spoke to one detective, and the detectives said, yes, we know who the alleged criminals are, known where they are, and then, but it's very difficult to apprehend because they're here today and they're tomorrow. So that is the story to date.
Yeah, I mean, if I may just, from a business perspective, because you also work in a business forum, you know, and that's what you do, but at the same time, this is affecting you personally. What do you want to see done? What are your demands?
Yeah, look, Leanne, my story is sort of it's a drop in the Pacific. There are a number of us who are rocking the same boat. There are quite a number of people who have the same story as mine. But what we think needs to happen is that we have a police system that is well trained to investigate and make sure that the community become involved in these things. Because remember, all these criminals, they live amongst us and they are known. So it's for somebody to take a bold step and say, this is the person, and you know who they are, where they are. When they see them, they get reported to the police. And then if the police don't want to do or are unable to do their job, then it must be a separate thing. But I should think it's an integrated effort to make sure that we rid the community of such criminals. It's not only...
That's the reality, is to try and get to the bottom of it. Let's move over to Nomi. Nomi, you of course are an MPL. You're in the provincial legislature. I have to get a little bit political on you and ask you about events that unfolded yesterday. This is a DA stronghold, so unfortunately politics does come into the play in a broadcast like this. This is a DA stronghold. You've seen the resignation of the leader of the DA, Musi Maimane. We've seen Athol Trollop leaving. We've seen a lot of problems that are now happening within the DA. I mean, this cannot bode well for the province as well. But what is your reaction to all of this?
Look, I think what has happened, Leanne, in the DA, I think is nothing new. The facade, I think, of the Democratic Alliance in terms of, you know, the type of approach, you know, to social problems had to, you know, come to a point where internally there's a rupture. Actually, what we're discussing here as an issue of crime actually is one of those things that give credence to that reality, that the DA believes in optics, in dealing with issues at a shallow level, instead of going to the root cause. It has been oblivion to the truth that, you know, race is part
of the structure of the South African history and the struggle to the democracy. So you can't avoid it. You cannot look at it and create an impression that, by just having members that are diverse in the DA, it means you are not going to have to deal with some of the challenges structurally that actually are embedded in that particular diversity. Similar to what we are having here. Part of the fight that we always take up in the legislature is the fact that whilst we talk about the Western Cape as a growing economy, actually if you look at the Western Cape in terms of other provinces, we always look at it as one that is positive. There's always growth, there's always a percentage increase in terms of employment. But the issue is, this economy is growing for whom? Because if you look also at the geography of the crime that we're talking about, it's exactly in the most poor communities. So we've been arguing and saying there is a correlation between economic situation of communities and their social problems. You can't think you can only police the problem away. You see, you have to ensure that also these communities, in terms of their economic activism, there is some local economic empowerment that happens, so that it also helps in the medium to long term resolve of the type of challenges you see in communities like Gugulethu and others.
Indeed. Nomi, I'm going to pause you there. We need to take a break. I could debate you on that, because I could ask you what the ANC is doing in the rest of the country in terms of exactly what you've just said. And this is a reality that perhaps political parties are failing us on this one, or are we failing ourselves? These are questions we need to ask ourselves as well. Let's quickly take a break. We'll continue this as the broadcast still comes to you live from Gugulethu.